Imagine a ceasefire teetering on the brink, a fragile hope threatened by accusations and broken promises. That's exactly what happened in Gaza after a brief period of celebration, as Israel and Hamas clashed over the return of hostage remains, potentially jeopardizing the entire peace process. Following the release of 20 living hostages and the freeing of nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees, a moment of shared relief, a new crisis erupted quickly. While Hamas returned the remains of 4 deceased hostages, Israel accused them of deliberately withholding the bodies of others, specifically 24 more. Hamas countered that identifying all burial sites in the devastated territory would take time. But here's where it gets controversial. Israeli military officials reportedly believe Hamas knows the locations of more bodies than they're admitting, suggesting a deliberate stalling tactic. This impasse led to immediate consequences. Israel announced a 50% reduction in aid to Gaza and postponed the reopening of the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. This crossing is absolutely crucial for allowing much-needed supplies into Gaza from outside of Israel. Remember, this was supposed to be a major part of the ceasefire agreement, promising a surge of aid similar to what was seen during the short-lived truce in March. The 20-point plan, brokered by Donald Trump, called for the return of all hostages, alive or dead, within 72 hours. It did include a contingency plan, stating that Hamas should share information about deceased hostages and make maximum effort to ensure their return as soon as possible. Donald Trump himself weighed in, urging Hamas to release the remaining bodies to enable the next phase of the Gaza plan. He stated emphatically on social media, "The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now." This adds immense pressure to an already tense situation. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, acknowledged the challenges involved in recovering remains amidst the rubble, calling it a massive challenge. An ICRC official, Christian Carden, explained that finding bodies is an even greater task than releasing living hostages. Ella Jaime, whose husband was killed in the Hamas attack, supported Israel's decision to restrict aid, stating she didn't believe Hamas was doing everything possible to locate the bodies. She pointed out that Israel has leverage, stating, "We can control how many trucks go inside the strip. We have things we can do, and we have to use it." And this is the part most people miss. The families of victims are understandably desperate for closure and may prioritize the return of remains over humanitarian aid. Adding to the tension, sporadic violence continued throughout Gaza. Despite Israeli forces pulling back from some areas, they reportedly opened fire on civilians approaching their positions in 2 separate incidents, killing 6. The Israeli military claimed these individuals were identified as threats after repeated warnings. Hamas, however, called these shootings a violation of the ceasefire and accused Israel of trying to evade its commitments. Reports also surfaced of Hamas fighters reimposing their authority in Gaza, deploying on the streets and targeting those opposed to their rule. A disturbing video circulated showing Hamas fighters executing 7 men in a Gaza city square. Trump, surprisingly, has seemingly given his blessing to Hamas to reassert some control, at least temporarily. However, he later stated that Hamas would be forced to disarm, potentially violently. The UN reported that while some aid had entered Gaza, the situation remained dire, especially in the north, where services, tents, water, and heavy equipment were desperately needed. A Gaza hospital reported receiving the bodies of 45 Palestinians from Israel, a separate part of the broader peace plan. Attention is now shifting to establishing a transitional authority and multinational stabilization force in Gaza, overseen by a board of peace, chaired by Trump. An Egyptian official stated that 15 Palestinian technocrats have been selected to administer Gaza, approved by all Palestinian factions and vetted by Israel. The scale of destruction in Gaza is staggering. The UN estimates that reconstruction will cost $70 billion, with $20 billion needed in the next 3 years alone. The amount of rubble is estimated at 55 million tons, equivalent to 13 pyramids in Giza. So here's the big question. Can a lasting peace truly be built when trust is so deeply eroded and disagreements over fundamental issues, like the return of the dead, continue to fuel conflict? Is prioritizing the return of remains over immediate humanitarian aid a justifiable action, or does it further exacerbate the suffering of the Gazan people? And considering the complexities and competing interests, is Trump's vision for a board of peace a realistic solution, or just another layer of bureaucracy in a region already overburdened with political maneuvering? Share your thoughts in the comments below.